It is talk. Comments from you. Derek says, it's 1984. Welcome to the police state. This is reference freedom of speech. One from Chris. If we are only sending back boat arrivals since the pilot scheme started, does that mean the ones who arrived before the scheme are exempt and definitely staying? It would seem that way. Yeah, I think that's how it works. Oddly, Rwanda was going to work like that as well. It was never going to be like people who come across tomorrow would then be sent to Rwanda. They would go to the back of the queue. It was sort of the other way round. Curious times. Shell says, we haven't had free speech in years in Britain. Shell's in South Shields. And one here from PHMJ who says, oh no, I think that was for Alex, actually. But nonetheless, I will happily read it during the break for my own amusement. 0344 499 1000. So we are talking about free speech. The Trump-supporting pensioner who says she was left feeling like a criminal. This was after the UK police showed up at her door over a Facebook comment. Have a listen.
Better have a damn good reason for being here. I'm a member of the Free Speech Union, and I'm an American citizen.
Something that we believe you've written on Facebook has upset someone.
You're here because somebody got upset. Is it against the law? Am I being arrested?
You're not being arrested.
Then what are you doing here?
My plan was, if you were admitting that it was you who wrote the comment, you could just make an apology to the person.
I'm not apologizing to anybody, I can tell you that.
The alternative would be that I have to call you in for an interview. I'm here to talk to you about the allegation. They've reported it to the police.
So what?
Obviously, we get a lot of reports like that.
Are there no houses that have been burgled recently? No rapes, no murders?
Yeah, that's all going on as well. That's been...
Well, then why aren't you out there doing, investigating those?
Because I've got to investigate everything that gets reported.
Well, you're not investigating houses being burgled.
No, that's not my job today.
Well, the police officer told Deborah Anderson to apologise or face a formal interview for an alleged threatening post. The pensioner, who's never been involved with the police, spoke to Harry Cole, our own Harry Cole, in an exclusive that she has been made to feel like a criminal. Starmer, however, insisted yesterday that despite everything, the UK still has free speech. Here he is.
I'm all for free speech. I'm also for protecting children from things that will harm them. Paedophiles, those that peddle suicide, which had a terrible consequence for individual, particularly teenagers. And so that's the balance we strike. But we have had freedom of speech in this country for a very long time, and we will always protect it.
And when it comes to freedom of speech, we are asking that question, do we still have it? What about in the United States? We usually point to America and go, yeah, they've got loads of it. But speaking on Air Force One last night, this is how when Trump was on his way home from his visit here, the president suggested TV networks maybe lose licenses after Jimmy Kimmel's suspension. This has sparked more free speech concerns over there and FCC pushback amid claims of political retribution. Have a listen.
That's something that should be talked about for licensing too. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. When you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, and that's kind of is that a strange contrast? Because Donald Trump talking about, well, all they do is, like, take the mickey out of me. Well, they are satirical shows that will always take the mickey out of whoever is in charge. That's kind of how satire and topicality works in that respect. And, of course, Trump is a little bit more than others in terms of the gift that keeps on giving, whether you love him or not. Let's discuss all of these issues. Sam Armstrong from the Free Speech Union is with us. Let's start then, Sam, really with the woman who got the visit from the police. Each time we see one of these, I think we all find ourselves going, oh, that's the worst one I've seen so far. The parents who said something on a WhatsApp group about some governors, the poor former copper who had the old bill, his previous employer around his house, even giving it a search, which was even more sinister. And now we see this, a cancer patient sitting there in her own house, not even told, and this is almost as sinister as the alleged issue itself, the fact you're not told what your offence is. I mean, that's straight out of some sort of Maoist playbook, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course, these are just the cases where the person involved has the good sense to either have a Ring doorbell that films it for them, or to get the camera phone out and film it. And you've got to wonder, how much is this happening? For just the 3 main speech offences that they use, there are 16 arrests, not even counting the ones like Deborah, where they come and visit their house, a day. For things that people have said online, we are seeing thousands of cases every single year of this happening. And it's no surprise that you see so many extreme circumstances when it just seems to be occupying such a massive amount of the police's workload. I mean, if they've got time to arrest 16 people a day for posts that they've made online, haven't they possibly got the time to make 16 arrests a day for shoplifting or burglary or any other of the crimes that ordinary people in this country are forced to face and encounter every single day with seeming impunity?
It does seem extraordinary that these... I mean, look, if somebody has written, go round to number 43 Acacia Avenue and shoot Harry Smith in the head, you know, we all understand that. That's a very direct threat of violence. If somebody libels somebody, we understand that as well. These are existing laws. We don't need new laws around this. But invariably, Sam, that's not what we're talking about here. And we've yet to see this woman's Facebook post. I can't imagine she said anything quite like that. She might have insulted somebody, so what? She might have offended somebody, so what?
Yeah, well, remarkably, in this case, we sent formal subject access requests on Deborah's behalf to the police, and they claimed, up until yesterday, that they'd lost whatever the original complaint was.
Yeah.
Didn't really believe that. And then late last night, the Times newspaper get told that the comment was talking about pro-Palestine protesters in London, who we saw for weeks after weeks. Suella Braverman called them a hate marcher. She says, Deborah, says that as far as she was concerned, they're terrorists, and if she was Prime Minister, she would have them lined up and shot. Now, it's not the nicest comment on earth, but it's nothing that ordinary people don't think that they would do if they were Prime Minister for the day. I dare say it was unlikely that a mother of 2 cancer patient in Slough was ever likely to be Prime Minister. No. It wasn't an imminent threat of violence as the American standard is. It was a perfectly ordinary, perhaps intemperate political comment of the type that, you know, dare I say at talkTV, we get texted in every single day, comments like that. And the police, rather than thinking, oh, well, back to your knitting, ladies, decided we're going to go around, have a knock on the door and try and challenge your thinking. And there seems to be this belief that it's their role to make sure that the internet is a nice place.
And I kind of, that's a very good point. And I also, Sam, find it extraordinary that, and maybe this is wishful thinking, that, you know, in the cop shop, when these things happen and, you know, the inspector says you've got to go round and see somebody over some posts. There's a woman called Deborah who's been a little bit salty with what she said. I mean, you might think there'd be a big old conversation in the canteen where the boys and girls in blue go, really? One of those? Sarge, have you not watched the TV? Have you not seen any of this? Do you know how these stories end? They always end with us looking a bit daft for going round there.
Yeah, I hope so, because it's really unfair to younger, more junior officers in the police. Because this poor officer here, I don't know the circumstances, but there's every chance that he was instructed he had to go and see her.
100%.
He seemed a little bit hapless when he got there, and he's ended up with his face and voice splashed across the newspapers because it's very possible that somebody more senior at Thames Police, and we know the types of figures that Peter Blexley comes on Talk a lot, will tell you, the types of figures that rise to the top in the police are the wokesters. They've sent him here to do that, but it's him that's carrying the can for it.
Just a word, Sam, about what's going on over the pond in the United States. And it does always kind of disappoint me, and even Trump falls into this category. You know, if you ban somebody from a press conference or you tell a journalist they're fake news, and yes, of course, we all know there are some journalists and outlets over there in particular that really don't, in fact, they lose credibility because you want a certain level of neutrality in the news element of your output. You can have opinion, as we're doing here, but if our newsreader at 2 o'clock suddenly starts spouting their opinion, that would be a bit weird. So I know America hasn't always been perfect, but the Jimmy Kimmel thing does seem to have blown up here because, you know, Kimmel is somebody that, again, much like Charlie Kirk, most people probably won't have heard of. But he is a very, very well-paid, high-profile late-night talk show host. He dines out on satire. He dines out on topicality. Some of it isn't particularly to everybody's liking. This one was connected to Charlie Kirk, and he's been suspended, and in all likelihood probably won't come back again. Does that seem odd to you?
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned. I always say to people that free speech restrictions are a bit like mustard gas. They're a great weapon to have until the wind changes. Yeah. And Republicans that are now restricting Democrats' free speech because they run the country need to recognise that in 45 years' time, it's every bit possible that Democrats will be running the country again. And we saw what they did before, banning Trump off Twitter and all the rest of it, the kind of things they could do. Look, network television is a bit like the BBC over here in America, network television. It's a regulated thing and people have to tell the truth broadly, and Jimmy Kimmel was wrong. He was plain wrong to say that Charlie Kirk's killer was MAGA. He wasn't. He was a far left.
Yes, he was demonstrably wrong in what he said. Correct.
And there has to be standards. But look, I don't think if we're being honest with ourselves that we think that Trump is entirely fairly applying the law here. He's having his own back, and I get the urge to do that. But I just warn everyone on my side, and look, I get the urge, I get the sense, but just be careful because they'll be doing it to us soon. And the best way to protect my speech is to protect theirs too.
100%. Listen, Sam, great to see you again. Thank you, Sam Armstrong, political consultant. He's with the Free Speech Union as well. Let's get a word from Sebastian Salek, Labour councillor and commentator. Sebastian, good afternoon to you. I mean, it's always been around this one, as it's not an entirely new debate about do we have free speech. If I put the question like that, in terms of the UK, is it still there? Is free speech alive and well? What do you say?
Hey, Ian, good to be with you. Of course we have free speech, and you only have to look to the countries where they don't to see the stark difference between Britain and elsewhere. I mean, I think of Russia, where if you criticise the leader, you find yourself getting thrown off a balcony or disappearing in mysterious circumstances. You can say what you want about the Prime Minister here. You can be as rude as you want. You're never going to get holed up in a jail or shot or whatever else for it. That is what free speech really means. And I'm really pleased that we live in a country where that is the case. Now, of course, the police sometimes are going to get it wrong. They might arrest someone they shouldn't have. They might go and have a chat with someone who turns out to have done nothing wrong whatsoever. There will be mistakes made always. But to say that that means we don't have free speech in this country, I think is a bit of an overreach.
We do need to keep it in check, though, don't we? Otherwise, we wouldn't have the police and all sorts of other institutions either banning people, firing people, getting them off social media, sending them to jail, etc. I mean, there are, you know, we know there's lines of responsibility, and there's a distinction between free speech and incitement, or free speech and violence and, you know, direct action to pick up arms or whatever. But it does need checking, because we do have incidents that are very, very disturbing.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think there's generally an argument that is made by some people that if you say something on social media, it can't possibly be bad, it can't possibly be illegal. The whole phrase, you know, I think back to Lucy Connolly, and maybe let's not get into that one, but so many people said she was arrested for a tweet, she went to prison for a tweet. It doesn't matter where you write it. If you incite violence, you've crossed a line and you need to face justice. So just because something happens on a place like Facebook or Twitter or wherever else, seem like these nice, private, safe places, it's still really serious if you say the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's that, isn't it? I mean, you know, social media is no longer kind of these sort of esoteric chat rooms that people would once go in. You know, you'd have country and western fans in one chat room, fans of politics in another one, and they could all kick off, and it could get rowdy or it could get funny, and nobody really cared, and no one ever thought of ringing the old bill. You know, these are now multi-billion-pound corporations that are publishing news, breaking news. Some places go to Twitter first, so their status is very different to what it once was. And of course, each time you put a tweet out there, you are publishing it in the same way as the people that publish a newspaper are publishing it. You have a responsibility. Tricky one, but you do.
Yeah, definitely. It's really a great equalizer. And anybody, especially now the algorithms have moved away from showing tweets from people you follow to the algorithm giving you what you think you might like. it really means you can get in front of a lot of people and not have a very big following. I mean, I put out stuff that gets sometimes over 1 million impressions, and I'm sure you do as well, and many other people do. Look, I'm just a councillor in East London. But the stuff that I write gets seen, and that means that I, as a private individual, have a great responsibility, and we should all take that incredibly seriously.
Indeed, Sebastian, thank you. Sebastian Salek, Labour councillor and commentator, thank you to him.